If I had a different accent, my laugh would sound like horty whore. Welcome to episode 44. Hello and welcome back to the Rena 100 Show, a show where I, Rena 100, have a voice that gets progressively deeper as I age into other ages, and as I wait for my baby to come out of my body any day now. Just if anybody has any tips, please send them my way. But I bet you I've tried them all. And yeah, I talk about a theme every week. If you like what you're listening to, please like, subscribe, all that stuff that people do when they like stuff on the internet. Or even if you don't like it, share it. Hey, maybe people will listen because they don't like it. So this week's theme is kind of an addendum to last week's theme, which was us and them, and that talking about that division, that dichotomy, made me start thinking about, well, what really makes us alike after all? How alike are we actually really as a human race? Because we have so much division, but maybe that is something that binds us, is the division, is simply the fact that we do fight like the monkeys in the trees, right? The territorialness of it all. That is, damn. I mean, I didn't write that in my notes, but hearing myself talk about it out loud, I'm like, that really is a huge uniting factor. The fact that we can't unite, the fact that we want to fight. I'm rhyming. That's how much it makes sense to me right now. But it's not just bad things that unite us, it's weird things and gross things. Things like liking yummy food, things like pooping and having sex. Those are all things we do. But even with those things, there are massive differences in the way we do them and the way it all goes down. You know, the kind of food we like, the kind of poop we poop, the kind of sex we have. There's lots of variety going on there. So it's really just these broad strokes categories. But I guess the same could be said for conflict. I mean, we're very nuanced in our cultural conflicts, I guess, because of our cultures. But it's like, yeah, of course, Ukraine versus Russia isn't the same as other places that don't like each other. Why do we all have to fight? It's such a privileged stance, isn't it? To just be like, why can't we all just get along? It's like, yeah, because I can say that here because my resources, for the most part, are taken care of, and I've had the freedom to self actualize. And that's the thing. I mean, how much of it is tied to that? I don't know. Is it a common ground that if we don't have the freedom to self actualize and we don't have our needs met, that we will automatically fight and blame people? I don't know. There are pacifists in the world. There is such a thing as predisposition, there is such a thing as temperament, right? Not all babies are the same. They all look kind of the same, but they're not all the same, you know? Like some of them can say nature, nurture. How much of it is the same? I mean, a lot of it is just that once we're born, different rules apply, you know, depending on what society we're born into, what echelon of society we're born into, what kind of parents we have. There's the whole luck of the draw at birth, you know, like what's going to happen? Are you going to be born disabled and have people be prejudiced against you because of that, and also maybe have opportunities not presented to you because of that? Are you going to be just exceptionally gorgeous and everyone's just going to fall all over themselves trying to do favors for you your whole life, you know? Are you going to be born into a gender that's not common, you know? That's like one of the not the one of the two main ones, and you're just always going to feel like nobody understands you, and that's going to affect, you know, your life. How alike are we really? We are different genders. How different are we according to the lines of our gender? Or are we all deep down just the same thing. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about that, like, I forget where I heard that somebody had a theory that all of humanity is just one single soul traveling through each lifetime. We are all literally the same soul having all of these experiences at the same time. And you are everyone, and everyone is you. In a way, it's an extremely narcissistic way of looking at the world. But also, maybe the opposite, maybe would help you empathize even better. Empathy is a funny thing like that. Put yourself in someone else's shoes, but can you? What if you never tried on shoes that feel like theirs? They can't just take off their shoes, they're wearing them. How do you really know how it feels to be someone else? How it would feel to have their lived experience? You don't. I mean, that's something that comes with age, is realizing that, isn't it? That you just have not had those experiences. And so maybe you should not judge about how they're reacting to the world, because their lived experiences have shaped them in such a way that that's been their survival mechanism, and it's worked for them so far, and you can't change them. So yeah, I guess, okay, something that binds us is wanting to survive, and therefore developing these survival mechanisms. And if you don't want to survive, then your survival mechanism is to die, because life feels worse than death at that point. And it's oddly like this contradictory thing that killing yourself is a kind of a survival mechanism when you have depression. So weird. Wow, that went dark. Okay. But then probably when animals look at us, the same way we look at animals, I mean, we all probably look kind of the same, just like kind of some kind of diseased monkey. And aliens would probably agree if they saw us running around on Earth, like, oh, that's all people, you know? And yet we're so nuanced and different. Like, even people from the similar background, even people from the same nuclear family can be so different from each other. So what unites us, you know? What is it that makes us the same? Oh, I just dropped a cowboy hat. What is it that makes us all the same? Is it, I mean, I think comedy in some ways, the things that make us laugh, like the farts are funny. That's united. Is it our anatomy? Is it that we all have livers and hearts and kidneys? And toes, hopefully. What is it? Nipples, just all the different parts, teeth. But what is that? And maybe it's emotions that unite us. Maybe it's joy, that we can experience joy. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's the feelings that bind. Maybe that's the thing that's essentially human about us. Is that the thing? Maybe it's the search for meaning, the fact that we all want to know why we're here, or we all want to feel like we have some kind of purpose for being here. Or maybe it's mathematics, and the fact that our brains can follow the trajectory of logic. It's the completely opposite of emotion, and yet emotion plays a role. But yeah, I mean, I my opinion, which is, I'm sorry, I always end the podcast on this topic, or not always, excuse me, but just, oh God, I'm such a klutz today. Not always, but just like often end the podcast on this topic. But the thing that I think ultimately really does unite us is that we all die, which lends a finite nature to our lives, and that we all have the same period at the end of the sentence. We all die, and death is the same for everyone once it happens. It's we're here and then we're not, or we're here in this form and then we're not, whatever you believe. That is the most uniting factor to me, and everything all the other things that bind us together from that, I think stem from either a fear of that, or it making it finite, or that our body parts are working against death, trying to keep us alive, that our emotions are lending themselves to survival mechanisms and trying to keep us here for longer and trying to avoid death, and fighting each other because we feel threatened. And why do we feel threatened? Because we could die. We need resources so we don't die. We need to poop so we don't die. We have sex. Okay, well, that one, I don't know. It's just a fun thing to do, I guess. And then sometimes it's for reproduction. So, I mean, that's another way of trying to live forever. Combat death with sex. You can distract yourself from death with sex. It's a great distraction. Um, so, yeah, ultimately, take comfort in the fact that we're all going to die. Hope you have a good week.